talk to the legends of the creative and entertainment industries. We talk to those on the rise. Steen Anthony Nielsen asks about the highs, the lows, and everything in between. This is Outcast Creative, and this is Industry Interviews.
Hello, I am here today with my co-host, the Inside Man, because I've been having some connection issues lately, and it wouldn't be good if I was interviewing a guest and suddenly I got cut off. So, safety in numbers, Inside Man is once again co-hosting with me. How you doing, mate?
Goedenavond. Hoe gaat dit met jou?
Oh, merci, très bien. Okay, I didn't know we were doing. I wasn't aware we were doing this stream in French. That's good to know. I probably should have sold my first.
Right, I know what I said.
So before we're going to show a trailer in a second. Before I do that, I want to say today's guest is the epitome of what this channel is about. It's why I want to support people, and my primary goal. And don't get me wrong, I want to get creatives on at every level. The bigger the guests, the better, because obviously they make it better for the lesser known people. But I'm all about supporting independent filmmakers. I'm an independent filmmaker myself. And I always really commend the people that just get off their arse, find money somehow, and shoot a feature film. They make it happen. And I heard about Ryan Kruger from another filmmaker who said, take a look at this guy. I think you should get him on your channel. Had a quick look, and I reached out to him. Fortunately, he was willing to come on. And he's just done his second feature film. We're going to talk about that later on. We've also got a bonus guest coming on at Ryan's suggestion, which I'm very grateful for. Actor Sean Cameron Michael will be joining us in about half an hour, unless he gets, called in for a self-tape all of a sudden or something. This can happen. But hopefully he'll also be coming on in a little bit. He's a regular collaborator with Ryan, which I also love. I love it when people have got their little group they collaborate with and give each other work and that kind of thing. So so we'll be talking to Sean as well. So 2 guests for the price of 1. Sound good, Inside Man?
Fantastic.
And I know that you've just watched Ryan's latest movie as well. And I was a bit of a fan of the original Street Trash, sort of 1980s horror B movie, which I actually watched at very Quentin Tarantino of me. I watched the video through. Sorry, I started that a bit abruptly. This is the trailer for Ryan's first film, Fried Berry, which premiered at the city's
Fried Barry.
Is it Fried Barry? Sorry, not Berry.
Yeah.
Fried Barry. Premiered at the city's film festival in 2020. One of the first festivals to get going again in that first break in lockdown. And I remember it well. Anyway, let's have a quick look at it before I bring my guest in.
How long have you been married?
What I like about you, Dad, you don't say much. But you're a good listener.
You're absolutely fucking not the father. You're a useless piece of shit.
So what are you doing here, man? I'm gonna catch you. Yeah! You do something bad. Kill someone.
You're not my husband, are you?
You're on a mission. You're more important than us. You have to save yourself. What is your name?
That is a big one. Wow, you big boy.
For your kids watching, don't try that at home. Oh wow, I've got a lot to say about that. Anyway, with no further ado, let's bring our guest, Ryan. Welcome to the Outcast Creative Channel, Ryan. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for the invite, man. I really appreciate it.
Not at all. That is why we are here, to support independent creators, and that's what I will continue to do till my last dying breath, which hopefully will be a long time. I'm going to touch wood. There's some over here. Right, okay. So, do you know what? Before I hit you with my quick fire questions, which is the thing I do with all of my guests, I'm going to say something very quickly. That video and your directing style, which I think comes across very, very, very vividly, really reminds me of young Tony Scott. And he got into directing through commercials and music videos, which I know you've got quite a wealth of experience of. I can really see that. I can see that journey in your style. It's really there. Quite impressive too, I have to say. All right, so I'm going to ask you a series of quick fire questions. Inside Man might even ask you a bonus one if you can think of one. Can you tell me what the very first movie was that you saw when you were a kid on the big screen at the cinema, when your parents took you for the first time?
It was 1987. It was Masters of the Universe.
You're the second of my guests.
Second one.
The
other one was Wayne. Wayne was the other one.
I actually watched Empire Strikes Back in a drive-in in South Africa.
Yeah.
But I was so young that I can't remember it. That was actually my first. Yeah. But the funny thing about Master of the Universe was I was really excited to watch it, and it was me, my dad, and my brother, and we got there. So we rushed to get there, and then we got there, and then I didn't feel so good. So I watched about 10 minutes or 15 minutes of the movie, and then threw up everywhere. And then my dad had to take me home. Luckily, we only lived kind of 2 minutes away. So then my dad drove back, dropped me off, and then came back and watched the rest of the movie. So that was my first film I remember watching.
That's not a very successful first outing. Did you get to see the rest of the movie the next day or something?
I ended up getting it on VHS, however, probably a year later or something like that.
Yeah.
Right, okay. What was the last film that you paid to go and see on the big screen that you saw at the cinema?
I just watched September 5th?
We reviewed that the other week. Fantastic. Yeah. We both thought it was a
brilliant movie.
Film. Yeah.
You know what's crazy about that movie was I was watching it, and there was this one actor that came in and out of it, and he was so good. He was such a good actor, and he was keep coming in and out of it, and I didn't know who he was. And anyway, I thought it was a brilliant film. Even to write that script is another thing. Yeah. But visually, how they shot that film, where it's all inside the control room, and then the real footage that we saw. Yeah. But then when the credits came up, it said Ben Chaplin. And I was like, where the fuck was Ben Chaplin in that movie? And then he was the guy that was coming in and out of it. And he just looked so fucking old that I didn't recognize him at all. Yeah. I just didn't recognize him. Yeah.
Great film. Really clever movie. We said that its biggest strength was it gave you yet another unique perspective on the whole Black September thing. It just, when you thought you'd seen everything with the other films and documentaries, there was still more.
I also thought that. It was very clever. Great to write a script like that is fucking hard.
Yeah, I thought the interesting thing about that was that I think even though we knew what the outcome was, we knew the tragic outcome, but I was still kind of hoping that it was going to be different. You know what I mean? It's sort of it's very similar to Valkyrie. Willing them to get away with it in Valkyrie. That very similar kind of thing. Even though we knew what the outcome was, I found myself sort of willing the opposite.
Right, let me fire off the rest of my quick questions before we go down a big rabbit hole there. Okay, so as often happens, what's your go-to movie to whack on Sunday afternoon when you want to veg out?
It'll just be a random 80s movie. So today I felt like I wanted to watch Twins because it's been a while since I watched Twins.
Oh my god, with Danny DeVito
it's just a fucking fun movie, and I haven't seen it for a while, and it's just like Arnie at his best, and it's just like Danny DeVito. It's such a fucking funny film, and it's been a while.
I was working at this. I was working at the cinema when that was on. Which groundbreaking television series since The Sopranos, which I think debuted in 1997, would you say you watched all the seasons of? When you watched it, you were thinking, my God, I would have loved to have directed an episode of this, or, you know, I would have loved to have been involved in this. This is good quality TV drama.
I think it was probably something like Breaking Bad or like the first season of like Walking Dead or something, you know, something like that, or Ozark. I mean, they were good, strong. Like I remember telling my dad about Breaking Bad, and I said, you know, it's this guy, you know, it's these people that you know, they sell drugs and this, and my dad's like, oh no, I don't want to watch a thing with drugs. And I was like, no, it's like this guy's a teacher and he's got cancer and he wants to sort out his family. And then my dad's like, no, and I was like, just watch one fucking episode. And then he watched it and he's like, best series ever. He fucking loved it.
Yeah.
So he probably binged the whole thing. My answer to that is the police drama show The Shield. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
No, I actually haven't seen it. No.
You know what? A lot of people still haven't seen it. It's about a corrupt police unit in Los Angeles. It's kind of inspired by the Rampart scandal. The entire show is.
I know what it is. I just. There's so much content, man. There's so much content.
I know. Yeah. But watch the pilot of that, mate, and I guarantee you'll watch the rest of the first season. Trust me. You'll from a filmmaking and writing perspective, you'll love it. Okay. Last couple of questions. Do you have a well-known actor, we're going to say British or American, that you haven't worked with yet, but you would love to work with, apart from Ben Chaplin, who you've already mentioned?
Yeah, I haven't worked with Ben Chaplin, but I don't know, man. Actually, I do know. I always say this.
Or actress. Can be an actress.
It's got to be Christopher Walken, man. Like before that guy dies, I'd love to make it. I mean, it's Christopher Walken. Anything he does, he's just amazing. Even, he's just a legend.
You've got to get on that, man. The reason I got into the industry was Gene Hackman, and my number one goal for forever. And
I know he's. You know what? There's not many legends left. You know, you look at Gene Hackman, you look at Harvey Keitel, and you look at even De Niro and Pacino. They're all getting fucking old. You know,
I know.
You know, we're lucky if we get another 10 years out of them. You know.
Yeah. So let's go back to the beginnings of your career. How did it all start for you? When did you make that faithful decision to go into a potential lifetime of poverty and become a filmmaker? Was there, hopefully not, was there like a mentor when you were younger? Was it seeing a movie? What was the catalyst moment that made you kind of want to go that direction?
I think I've been lucky enough that I've always known like what I want to do, and it's always been to be in film and to do acting, and then went into directing. But it's always been, I wanted to be in the film business, and I think just growing up, in the late 80s and the early 90s, and just watching, getting all the videos from the video shop based on the poster art and stuff like that, and spending hours watching, and then just growing up, let my dad just watching films with my dad and stuff, and there's just nothing better than film, and use the imagination. And I always say it's when you're a kid and you're playing with your little Star Wars or your Star Trek or your Marvel and your DC figures and your G.I. Joes, Action Force or whatever, and then they get to a point where one day you pack away your toys and you just never play with them again. Whether you got a bike or you start to get interested in girls and you start going out, and there's that one day that you leave those toys and and you would sit there and you would play with them for hours. So it's kind of just like that, but you're creating stories and you're creating characters, and and it's just using your imagination again, and it's just doing the same thing. I started shooting short films with my little shit JVC video movie camera that I bought from Cash Converters in Liverpool, and I literally.
I thought you had a Liverpool accent, mate. Actually,
I'm a Scouse African. I'm a Scouse African.
The Scouse African.
but you're based in South Africa now, right?
Yeah. So I've lived in South Africa. So my mum's English, my dad's South African, and I've always been back and forth. But I've lived in Cape Town, South Africa now for about 16, 17 years.
Because I was hearing your accent. I was hearing your accent, and I was thinking there's like 4 different accents going on in here. Which
there can't be a lot of Scouse Africans in the world. There can't be.
No.
I don't know. I mean, I kind of grew up in South Africa as well. I was in Pretoria.
Okay.
Yeah, you did. I forgot about that.
Yeah, and next door neighbours were Scousers, and
really?
literally just around the corner from us, there were Scousers. And then we found another couple of families that were Scousers. So there were quite a few Scousers in Pretoria at the time.
Crazy.
Yeah. So plenty of Scouse Africans there.
Yeah, random.
So you sorry, carry on.
Yeah. So then, I started making these, with this camera, making films with short films over the weekend or summers, very much like Super 8. That was literally like me and my friends over a weekend or over the summer making films, and just spending like all summer or just the weekend shooting these terrible, funny action films where we all had American accents and shit.
Yeah.
And you know what? They're all fucking crap, but at the same time, every single film had like a little cool moment in it, and then you'd make this other one, and then there'll be a little cool little moment, and then as years pass, you get to a point where you go, well, I'm going to make another film, and I'm going to take this little good moment, and I'm going to take this other little good moment, and make like another film, and then that film ends up being your best little shit film, and then it just grows from there, and then obviously it got to a point, and then I've always done like my acting, so I also got into the industry, doing a lot of acting work for like TV and film. Started off, doing really small stuff, and then it just grew. And then I started doing music videos, some music videos in England, some music videos when I was back and forth from South Africa. And I also got acting work over here for a lot of international films. So then I decided to move to South Africa. And there was one thing that I like a reality docu kind of thing where I shot in England for over 3 years, where we basically filmed with like big bands like Slipknot and Misfits and Black Flag and Juliette Lewis and the Licks and Killswitch Engage and all these other like metal bands, and it was just like backstage, hotel rooms and tour buses, and it was literally just partying the whole time, just doing crazy shit. So I did that, and then that just made me want to like also just get more back into directing, not reality or anything like that, but just more telling stories. And then the music video thing was always great as a filmmaker, because making music videos, I always think, is a great platform to get really creative. And I was always known in South Africa for my music videos and narrative storytelling within music videos. It was either very visual that I did, or it was like a narrative story within a music video. And because the biggest picture was always, to head into, into feature films. And so after shooting about 100 music videos, literally over 100 music videos, and then started doing some short film, proper short films, and worked in the commercial industry for a bit, doing some commercials. And then it just got to a point where I was like heavily depressed, not where I wanted to be. I was still making good money doing acting and other directing, but at the same time, I was just over not doing a feature. And over the years, I spoke to many producers that approached me, or I spoke to them and said, "Oh yeah, we really want to work with you." And then it kind of fades away. And then I speak to another producer. Yeah, maybe not this one, but the next one, because we're already on a project. And then it kind of fades away. So I just got sick of all that. And at the time, I was like super depressed. Went through a breakup. My cat had cancer. It was just like all these things on top of each other, and then I just got to a point, and I was like, "Fuck this! I'm actually gonna make a film. I don't know which one to make, but I'm just gonna independently do it." And then what happened there was I had like 10 scripts that I wrote, and I was like, "Fuck! Which one can I do? Which one can I pull off?" And I know it's going to take a long time to shoot, but that's fine as long as I start and I can, do this thing. And then what happened was I just got this because I shot Fry Barry, the experimental film, which had nothing. Like I didn't even know I was going to like make a feature for Fry Barry or anything. It was just a guy in an abandoned building, off his head on drugs, highs and lows, and it did really well. And then I just thought, I just had the story, and I just thought that's the film I should make, not these scripts that I've got in front of me. That's the film that I should make, and it was the right one to do. And I think as a first-time feature film director, it's so important, like, what your first film is. And I just knew when I got this story, I'm like, I haven't seen that film. I want to see that film, and and a month later, I started filming. I shot 28 days over a year and a half. And then we had the film, and I sold it to AMC Shudder, and then got a sales agent to sell around the world. And, we sold like to over 75 territories. We had a lot of fan art. We had a lot of people getting Fry Barry tattoos. And it was nuts. But it just shows you, like, when I was going through that depression and all that shit, it's just crazy, because it was the worst time of my life, without a doubt. But it's crazy how something so great can be born out of this, like, darkness of just, not being happy. But that ended up being my medicine, making the film, and ended up being good, and ended up being all right. But that's what I needed, and luckily I was fortunate. Not everybody has this, but I was fortunate to know what could make me better. And it was to do, like, the dream of what I've always wanted to do. And thank God it was like, it was literally one of those situations where it was like all chips in, and it paid off, and it paid off. So,
I appreciate you speaking about that so candidly, because I mean, you probably haven't watched some of my early streams, but I went through a pretty similar journey, except that I had my big break, this big movie I was going to do. The producers turned out to be con men. They stole the financing and ported it onto another movie. One of my own guys was involved as well. He was at my fucking wedding, of all things. And, when that
there's nothing worse.
No, and it was when that collapsed. I lost out on over £500,000 with all the fees and things I was going to get. And the film would have been a massive commercial success. It was a big, true World War II story. And I tried to put together various projects after that. And me and my ex-wife were living hand to mouth, and it completely destroyed our marriage. And we didn't survive. We didn't survive. So when you talked about that and the dark times, trust me, man, I've been there.
And that was in a nutshell. That was in a nutshell.
Yeah. I mean, it
was fucking dark times.
Yeah, I mean, this podcast is something that you sort of threw yourself into a film. I wasn't able to do that because I'd just come out the other side of trying to set up 5 projects in a row that didn't happen. So I thought, I've got to do something I can actually achieve. This podcast was one thing, and writing books was another thing, and being an acting coach was another thing. All things I can do on my own.
Listen,
so
everything, I truly believe everything happens for a reason, no matter how fucked up it is. Right. Everything happens for a reason. You weren't meant to make that film then, and maybe it's a blessing in disguise that if you made it, or you would have got fucked over, or any of those things. I think what will be. So you mustn't beat yourself up about it. Obviously, you can't help. Like, listen, when I got fucked over, I could not believe, after being so good and just being 50-50 with somebody, and it doesn't matter how well you know somebody, it can happen. I got burned, and I had a lot of sleepless nights over it. Couldn't believe it. but it is what it is, and it just teaches you a lesson, not to give your whole hand away. And I think these things happen, and like I said, with we've all got our own stories, and I'm sure, Lance, that it's fucking dark times, and it's a terrible thing that happened, and also with your relationship and stuff like that, it does do that wear and tear on us. But yeah, I mean, everything happens for a reason, and I could probably speak about this for ages, but as we said, we've all got our own stories, and there was just so much with my story. It was not taken away from your story. I'm just saying.
No. This is about you tonight, so keep going.
But it was the worst, and it was the worst time ever. And then when you're depressed, it doesn't matter. Like, I was working. I was shooting commercials. I was a series regular, small part on Warrior. I was making decent money.
Yeah, great show that, by the way.
And I wasn't. I was not happy. I was the saddest person in the world, and I was just over shit. And like I said, it was, I went through a breakup. My cat had cancer. I had something wrong with my kidney. I had to have an operation. Got sepsis. Nearly died. There was just so much. There was just so much shit on there. But that's why I'm saying, at the bottom of the pit, I was done, man. I was like done. And it's just, and that's why I said, luckily I knew what could get me out. And it was just like, you know what? I'm not waiting anymore. I'm just it's going to do it. And it's the best thing I could have done,
Good for you. Good for you. And just reiterate what I said at the beginning. You're exactly the kind of person that I'm here to support. And no going forwards, in case I forget to say this at the end, because of course we're going to have Sean on in a bit. Now that you've been on the channel and you've come here and you've given me your time, you can depend on the support of this channel going forward as long as it exists. So, so anytime you want to come back on and talk about something else, cool. Or if you're doing the dreaded crowdfunding campaign, hopefully not. But anything like that, consider it a platform for you to come and talk. You're now officially a member of the Outcast Creative. So you talked about acting, you talked about directing. It's funny because I started off as an actor as well. Cool. Do you have a preference over the two? I see you, Sean. We'll bring you in just a sec.
I think, no. Without I always say to people, like, if you had to choose, and I'm like, I don't need to choose. I'll do. I'll always do acting and directing. The thing is with acting is I have no control over my career whatsoever. But at least directing,
unless you're casting yourself in something,
So I'll always do acting, but as an actors, Sean will tell you now, we have no control. We can only give it our best, and do that audition, and then get the part. But directing, you can create, you can write, you can film stuff, and you can make shit happen for you.
Yeah. Well,
but everything. Sorry, I apologize. I was just going to say. So everything. I mean, I'm certainly of the belief that everything that you encounter, everything that you pick up on a set, it doesn't matter how small your role on a set, and what capacity you're working on a set. You can, it's a great learning experience. I think for any youngsters out there that just happen to be on a movie set or a TV set. You cannot get, it's such a great learning ground. And considering that, that you have done a considerable amount of acting, and looking at your, your credits for your music videos, would you say that those visually, that your music videos of directly, having the freedom with a certain style, that those visually have influenced you moving forward onto features? Would you say that they've had a
Oh no, 100%.
Your style?
I always knew I was going to make a movie. I just didn't know when. So, so I always knew I was going to make a feature film. I was fucking destined to fucking make one because I've always wanted to do it. But that's why I did short films within music videos, because most music videos is the band performance or band performance cut into story. So I always tried to do just story. Or if the band wanted to be in, I'll be like, all right, well, we'll show some band footage.
Yeah,
but
we'll show you really a little
bit. You know.
Yeah. Well, look, let's. I'm going to bring Sean in. I'm going to play a bit of his show reel. It's 4 minutes long. It's on IMDb. The link is below. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but let's just have a quick look at Sean in action before I bring in our second guest.
He cut out her vocal cords and he put them in the kitchen sink's waste disposal. He said that when he switched it on, everything just flew out at him. And then he casually turned to me and said, Jesus, the bitch just wouldn't quit. That kind of hands-on investigative work never happens stateside.
Sounds like he's talking about
Most detectives don't seem to like it.
We're concerned with causes, not symptoms. With thoughts, not deeds. Deeds are how detectives are taught to understand their work.
Or maybe someone should teach them differently.
Maybe that someone should be you. You're going to die down here. I've hidden a bomb out there. A bomb I built just for you. I was hoping you would find it one day, but Salabi. Touch me! And boom.
Your obsession killed them.
Arlene, I'm so sorry.
I forgive you, Dad.
Oh, I love this movie, by the way. Love this movie.
Out here. Bring your offer to drink, man. You drink. Sounds like he's threatening me. I'm not trying to threaten anyone. I'm just trying. Not only can you not retrieve the Urk gold, no one else here can retrieve it either. They saw it with their own eyes. I would argue it is also indisputable that these two plans, courting Lord Ash and retrieving the Urk gold, are working against each other.
You left me here because I wasn't your son.
Right, we'll pause it there. What a fantastic range. Let's bring in Sean. Welcome to the Outcast Creative, Sean.
Hey,
Thank
Sean.
you for coming on.
Hey guys, I'm not quite sure what accent to use.
Oh, well, your own is sufficient. So our channel, in case you hadn't heard from Ryan already, we basically support independent creators, especially independent filmmakers, of which I am one. And there's interviews with probably dozens on the channel already, as well as more prestigious guests. We've had producer Gail Ann Hurd on, who produces the entire Walking Dead franchise, and lots of DOPs and people like that. You're welcome to come back anytime and promote anything that you're doing. So now you've been here once, you're kind of an unofficial member, as I just told Ryan.
Yeah.
Now you've
joined the family.
You have. You guys first met on Fried Barry, I think, or at least that's the first time you worked together.
You can talk about it, Sean.
So, Sean, do you want to tell me what the audition process was for that and how you got the part?
I mean, Ryan and I have known each other for like 15 years. We've been doing sort of short films and experimentals and music videos over the past sort of 15 years. And I actually think Ryan and I first met when I was working as a casting director, and he came into studio to audition for Doomsday for Neil Marshall.
I've had Neil Marshall on the channel. There's an interview with him on the channel.
Neil's amazing. I got to work with him a couple of years ago on Black Sails, and Neil's an inspiration. Is incredible. So I didn't really have to audition for Fried Barry. Ryan knew that I didn't.
What would you do, Sean, if I asked you to audition for Fried Barry?
The role was written for you effectively. The role you wrote the role with Sean in mind, I assume.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, Ryan and I we had done a short film called Time Travelers, where we kind of first met a sort of different iteration of Ronald, which we shot, I don't know, 8 years ago, something crazy. And then in Fried Barry, you also had a sort of another version of Ronald. And so then in Street Trash is sort of the third version of Ronald, but just a more a nicer version.
Why Street Trash? Because we've seen the original movie. Was that what inspired you? You wanted to kind of do that B movie video, cool video cover kind of film. Was that the idea for the concept?
I mean, for me, I mean, it really did tick a lot of boxes. It was the first sort of really big movie that Ryan was doing. But also the fact that it was going to be shot on film, and also I haven't really done a lot of horror, sort of comedy horror before. And at the time, I was in Los Angeles, and Ryan sort of contacted me and said, look, it's coming pretty close. They want me to do the reimagining of Street Trash, and so the piece just sort of fell into place. And but also I was also kind of excited or curious to play this role, because it's something very, very different to what I've really ever done before.
I mean, it's an extraordinary film, to be completely honest. I mean, I didn't know what to expect personally, because I do, I wouldn't say I revere the original, but I really love the original. And I thought, well, whenever you hear about, remakes or reimaginings or reboots, or, I've always kind of enter it into with a little bit of trepidation. However, this is about as perfect a companion piece to the original that I think that you could possibly get. We know immediately that this is taking place in exactly the same universe that the original movie is. And they're kind of brothers, if you like. The movies are more, they're very, very closely related. But I think the most extraordinary thing about this is that the amount of things that I picked up on personally was, things like the amazing influences that you've managed to put in there. For example, the Warriors. There's definitely some Walter Hill in there. There's definitely some John Carpenter in there.
Yeah, the thing sprung to mind with me.
Yeah, and little bits of Troma, but this is, it's kind of reworked to become something completely original from the influences from which it draws. And to know that this was shot on 35mm, I think it absolutely blows my mind, because nobody is shooting on 35mm these days.
Yeah, and what was the thinking behind that decision? Because as an indie filmmaker, straight away, if you commit to shooting on 35mm film with processing costs and editing, you might be there with a Steinbeck, and you're giving yourself a lot of shit there.
It was crazy, because listen, I never thought I'd ever shoot a feature film on film for a start. And when the producers asked me, would you like to shoot on film, straight away I said 35, that would be amazing. And they were like, all right. And then when I sat there for a long time, and days were going by, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be crazy. This is gonna be really, really hard. Maybe we should do it digital. What if it doesn't come out? What if this happens? What if that happens? And like with anything, you get the right crew, the right people, and it's fine. But what was crazy was, we don't have telecine here for developing film, so we would shoot like 4 days or more, and then we would send the film to be processed at Pinewood Studios in the UK, and then they would develop that, and then they would digitally send it back to us. So it was only after a week we were like, what the fuck have we shot? Like, is it going to come out?
Wow.
And we just saw the footage and we're like, oh my God, this is great. This looks amazing. Okay, we're shooting good stuff. And then that was it. And then it just ran really smooth. And it kind of makes me think why we don't shoot on film more often. But at the same time, if you look at it from a producer's point of view, I mean, you could shoot a melt, or you could shoot an action sequence or explosions. And if that shit doesn't come out, you've just wasted so much money.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was crazy, but it ran really well. And, you know, cast and crew, and especially the actors and Sean and everybody, they just brought their A game, and we didn't really, we did a few rehearsals before we shot, and then we didn't really have like comedy outtakes unless it was in the rehearsal. We weren't shooting, but it was like as soon as we started shooting, Sean and everybody was just on it, and it was just good. And
laser focused.
Yeah, just very focused. And again, the fact that we were shooting on film, there was just that discipline where everybody was just super quiet. They knew we could bend through film, and it was crazy. And then, sorry, I just want to go back. Working with Sean, I think it was a big deal for especially me, but as a friend to Sean, and working with Sean over the years with music videos and short films, I always said to Sean, I know we've talked about this many times before, Sean, but it's one of those things, I always said to you, one day we'll make a film. And obviously when I did Fry Barry, you're only in the the 1 or 2 scenes there, but I said one day we'll make a film and you'll be the lead, and I also said that to Joe like years down the line, Joe Vass, who played Chef, and it was just so special that when Street Trash came along, that I had a budget, and I can't do this without Sean. I don't know if you remember, Sean, I was like, because you were also busy and you were in LA and everything, I was like, you have to do this film. Like, there's nobody else that can do this part. There's nobody else that I can picture to do this part. And it just, when you envision somebody doing it, you can't imagine anybody else.
Plus, hey mate, there's a proper paycheck in it for you this time, so I mean, Sean is your equivalent of my Jason Flemyng. Jason Flemyng is my go-to actor. He's the one that I wrote a script for. Sean, what was the most challenging thing about doing street trash for you? What was the most challenging day?
A million things. I mean, I'd say the character of Ronald. I mean, yes, it's a horror comedy movie. It's a commercial movie per se, and I always think it's a really silly, fun, enjoyable movie. Not to be taken seriously, but for me as an actor, I always want to sort of obviously do my homework, sort of figure out who this character is, what I can do with it, how we can layer it, and what is the backstory to it. So my job as an actor is to bring that character on the page to life. And for me, it needs to be 3D. It needs to make sense for me exactly who is this person. So, myself and Joe Vaz, we workshopped the relationship between Ronald and Chef quite a lot. Also, because Ronald is sort of the leader of this ragtag of homeless people, but he's also very complex in the sense, or maybe I'm just a very complex person and I made him complex. But he is complex in the sense that he is, sexually fluid, and he is a drug addict, and he also does suffer from PTSD. And so the character is also very, very sensitive, but also very flamboyant, but also very hardcore. So it's like sort of finding when to place those pieces. I didn't want the character to be too flamboyant or too gay, so that an audience would go, whoa, do I really want to go along for this ride? Because the character isn't really gay. He's just a drug addict who would do anything legal, illegal for cash. I think what scared me the most, the two things that scared me the most was the comedy side of it, because all the other characters are really, really big. Pup and Vos and Two-Bit and Suckle. All these characters are very, very funny. It's all very sort of slapstick humor, very, very over the top. And so I was trying to figure out my sense of humor, how I would, place that within that world. So that was a little bit scary, or I was a little bit, had some trepidation with regards to that. But it was really a case of just sort of playing off whatever people were giving me. I would just like sort of play off that, and, how would Ronald react to that? And then also the other thing, obviously shooting on film, it was so funny. I was actually watching clips from the movie the other day, and I was thinking, it's really, really amazing that the majority of scenes, of dialogue scenes that we did in the movie, the majority, Ryan, I think I stand on the correction. The majority of scenes were 2 takes. So every scene with this dialogue,
2-3 takes. 2-3 takes.
Yeah, 2-3 takes max. And so you had to nail it, and some of them were quite wordy scenes where a lot of us sort of interacting with one another, and our camera, Fabian on camera, busy sort of, running around trying to capture these moments. And also for me, there was also quite a couple of scenes which I couldn't rehearse and I couldn't plan. We just had to, so when I'm running down the street and I grab the bag of cocaine from a bunch of guys and shove it in my face and throw it in the air. We could only really do two takes of that because there was wardrobe resets or whatever. And I had no idea how I was physically going to do that. How I was going to grab a bag, open it up, shove it in my face, put it in my mouth, blow it up into the air and carry on running at the same time. So, we really just had to make that sort of shit up as we went along. So that was, but I mean, the older I get as an actor, I want more challenges. I want to be, actually for some bizarre reason, love pressurized environments. So it was lots of fun.
I think there you go, Ryan. You heard it there. So don't be afraid to put him under pressure.
In terms of,
he's got some good films coming up that we're going to do.
in terms of the shooting on 35mm, because obviously with 35mm, you can hear the money running through the camera. Would you say that the low amount of takes that you actually took really was down to the absolute focus and of everybody knowing that the money was running through the camera, the way everybody was focused on the scenes?
It was more like I was just conscious of what I was just conscious of. Obviously, I didn't. You see, I only shoot for the edit, so I know some directors go, "Let's get this angle. Let's not get that angle. Let's do this." And I think the directors do that. They don't know what the scene's about, or they don't. They're just getting everything for safety for the edit in case it doesn't work.
Do you storyboard, Ryan?
Nah, I fucking hate storyboards. I think it will always change on set, especially with me and like the way I work with Sean and stuff like that. It's like, oh, why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? Oh, this will be cool if we change this and it will always change. But I think I just obviously I didn't want to burn through loads of film because I didn't want to. I completely undershot. In a sense of, we still had lots of film left over, but I didn't want to be in the other position where I still had the rest of the movie to shoot and I had no more film. So if anything, I was saving a lot of stuff to burn through, if you want to call it that for like more of the action sequences and getting stuff, right with prosthetics or, prosthetics or action and stuff, and just get as much as I can while I could. But I just think I always felt that I was the right director to shoot on film because shooting for the edit and not second guessing myself, because that's why I think some people go, oh, let's do this and let's go close here and let's go medium there, and then sometimes I just believe this is the scene. Sometimes we don't need 4 different angles. Sometimes it's on Sean and that's it, and we just sit in the scene. And I think I think some people just overthink it and think, oh mate, we have to shoot this and that and that, and I don't believe in that. I just think sometimes it's nice to be a fly on the wall, or it's nice just to sit there and have that moment and just watch it and not like be disturbed.
But at the same time, I mean, Ryan did essentially. I mean, you did have a shot list. I mean, we had a call sheet. You knew what scenes we had to get that day, and the way very much, that Ryan works. Is cool. How much time have we got? What scenes do we need to get? And so in his mind, as we're shooting a scene, he knows, okay, cool, this is probably going to take so long. That's not, so he's storyboarded it in his head, and he knows exactly what he needs to get. Where I mean, actors personally, hate storyboards. When we shot The Salvation with Mads Mikkelsen, I mean, and that, our director on that, Kristen Levering, had done some movies, but also been, is a sort of like a top commercial director. So when we shot The Salvation on film, every day we would arrive on set and there would just be storyboards up all over the place. And on day one, Mads walked up to the director, Christian, and was like, Like, I'm not even going to try and do Mads' accent because it's a weird Norwegian Danish mix with an American twang in it. But he was like, "Okay, so you want me to give this fucking look that is on storyboard? You want me to give this fucking look?" You know, it's
that's really good.
But no, but the camera's over there, so I must walk here and I must do this. And it was very, very funny.
Am I right in thinking Salvation was shot on the Silverado town set?
Sorry, repeat that.
Salvation. Am I right in thinking it was shot on the New Mexico Silverado town set, the set that was built for Silverado?
Well, I mean, we shot in Johannesburg.
Okay. No, I'm getting it mixed. I'm getting mixed up with a different movie. I think I've seen Salvation, but I remember. Do you know what? I think I'm thinking of the remake of 3:10 to Yuma's, the one that was shot on the Silverado.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, with Salvation, I mean those sets. I mean, they literally, took open land in the middle of nowhere and actually built those sets. Half of which actually burnt down halfway through the shoot.
Intentionally or accidentally?
No, intentionally.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Ryan, you mentioned you've got, several other projects coming up that you guys are collaborating on together. Do you want to say anything about those?
It's still in early stages. There's a few projects there that we're looking at. As you know, in the film industry, you never know what's gonna go ahead or what's gonna come first. It's still early stages. But there's a few good films that we got there that it's quite exciting and also very, very different than Street Trash and Fairbrass. It's just a different vibe, but still in a cool, crazy way.
Have you got a particular genre that you would love to do a story set in that you haven't done yet? I mean, because I just mentioned westerns, and I would love to shoot a western one day.
I've always been a fan of westerns. I guess that's like Sunday growing up in England with my dad watching all the westerns on Sunday.
Same.
I think I love all genres. I mean, obviously, I love the darker side of life of certain movies and stuff. And, I love Carpenter, I love Cronenberg, I love David Lynch. But obviously, there's loads of 80s films that I love. But like with music, there's the time and place and energy or chilling out to listen to watch certain movies. Sometimes you just want that popcorn movie just to chill out and you're not bothered about the story. You just want to be entertained. So, I always think that... I look at the career of like Danny Boyle and I go, he made Trainspotting, fucking great film. He made 28 Days Later, great film. And he made The Beach, great film. So, you look at the different genres that he makes and they're all, they're all fucking good. And Sean knows this, we've spoke about it where, doing a movie like Street Trash is a lot of fun. I think anybody that watches it can see we had so much fun, and the same with Fairbrass. And I do love, also want to make just the straight hardcore horror film with no comedy as well. But, I just don't want to get boxed in to just doing these type of films. And that's why, we're looking at, other genres or other styles of still like horror elements or thriller but just doing different stuff.
So I mean, I think with having watched this and I have to say, I think anybody that's watching this right now, if they like Shaun of the Dead, they're gonna absolutely fucking love this movie. They're gonna love Street Trash. It's got that a really good mix of humor and horror. And there's a lot of pathos in there. It's very satirical. It's a terrific piece of work. It really is, and I cannot congratulate you enough. It's just it truly is a magnificent independent movie. It really is. The thing is, it ticks all of my boxes. This is the kind of movie that I love, the kind of movie.
Trust me, that's a big compliment. That's quite hard to do.
I'm very difficult to please because I'm not a great fan of current movies, or as we like to call it, content these days. I like movies to be movies, and this is a real movie. This is shot on film. This is a film and a movie. This is, it's honestly, I was so thrilled to have seen this. But it really is that wonderful mix of satire, humor, pathos. It's great, and I love that you use practical effects as well.
Sorry, how many shooting days did you have on Street Trash, and what was the budget, if you're allowed to say?
Yeah, I wouldn't be allowed to say that, but
okay. give me the shooting day.
How long did we shoot, Sean? About 4 weeks.
28 shooting days.
Wow.
Were you shooting 6 days on, 1 day off?
Yeah, 1 or 2 days off, maybe. I can't.
Yeah, maybe 1 or 2 days off. I mean, I think the first 2 weeks, the first half of the shoot was just night shoots in -6 pouring rain on location. Lots of fun. But I mean, Ryan had a very big, support team, from stage 5. So it was really cool. It really was, for all of us. I think, we're especially in a South African context, for a local, co-production with the States. It really was a big movie, for us, because Ryan's used to shooting feature films, 10 days, 12 days. So for us it was a big movie. But I'm so proud of Ryan. Is one of the few filmmakers, indie filmmakers in South Africa, who actually, really goes out there and goes, cool, this is the story I want to tell. It's going to be a Ryan Kruger thing, and I'm going to go out there, I'm going to find the money or not find the money, and I'm going to make this fucking movie. Most people in the industry, have got an idea for a script or have got an idea for a movie, and they just give every excuse in the world of why they can't make it, or what's the point in writing it or making it, where Ryan doesn't give a fuck. He's like, I'm making this movie. And that's how Fried Barry happened. That's how your last movie, or After Street Trash, happened. It's a case of Ryan loves filmmaking, and he's going to carry on making movies with his stamp on it. So he really is very inspiring in that sense. I mean, myself as a writer as well, it's especially these days in the industry, it's very difficult to sit down in front of a laptop and spend the next 6 months busy writing something that for a 99.9999% chance is never ever going to see the light of day. And so, that is why.
This is why, so at the same time, I've worked with Sean, over the years, but we are very good friends, and we hang out a lot. And what I love about Sean is we are exactly the same. We love what we do. We're so passionate about what we do, and we can speak and sit there for hours and just talking about, filmmaking, because there's so many aspects to it. But the passion, I've never met anybody else that I feel that is very. There's just so many, like when we speak, Sean, there's always just so many similarities. Oh, I've done this, or you've done that, and we've. There's just so many things, but we're just passionate and we just love what we do, and it's how we get our kicks. And the thing is,
it courses through our veins. I've been doing this silly acting thing since the age of 12, and I haven't stopped. So 4 decades later, but so it's in our veins, and when it comes to most actors and crew, especially the ones who love the craft, who love the medium. If Ryan picks up the phone to me and says, I'm shooting something tomorrow, I'm like, oh, I'm not doing anything, cool, I'm there. And yes, it would be nice to be able to pay the rent and make some money. That's ideal. But we love to work because we just don't know how else to live without doing it.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad. It's kind of sad.
It is sad.
The strange thing is, you've actually got to other people that mirror you two exactly on the other side of these screens. Yeah. So,
yeah. So we
know.
completely relate.
We know.
What we love. We're doing what we love.
You
Genuinely makes us happy.
You mentioned Stage 5 Films production house in South Africa, so I'm just going to give them a bit of a shout out. There's a link to their website. That is actually their website there. You can also watch their showreel on Vimeo, so that might be useful for my fellow filmmaking friends. I've got a couple of quick questions in the chat here. David Macy asks, is shooting in South Africa easier than shooting in the UK? I mean, that's a bit of a generic question, but maybe we can expand on that to say what are some of the differences, if any.
I think independently, like super independently, obviously there's doing the music video thing independently. I think when I lived in England, I used to, shoot a lot of these things, and sometimes I didn't get bothered for permits and stuff like that. But I think overall, like South Africa, budget-wise, or crew and people coming from overseas making stuff here, it's definitely better for like budgets and stuff. But I think independently, I think it's the same. I think it's the same everywhere else in the world of picking up a camera and shooting stuff. So I
don't know. I mean, in Los Angeles, I worked with a couple of indie filmmakers, and we shot a short film, in 3 days, and they had to pay like $20,000, for one location for us to shoot at a diner. Yeah, $20,000.
That's ridiculous, man. I could shoot 3 short films for that.
$20,000 to shoot one day at a diner in the middle of the desert. In South Africa, we can make feature films for that amount of money. So definitely in California, it's really, really hard making movies because you have to. It's insane. When in South Africa, it doesn't matter what your budget is. You can find the people and you can make the movie, and you can find the locations.
Yeah, you've got to work at the studio level, really, if you're shooting in California.
Yeah.
The permits and all of the complications. It's very difficult to just pick up a camera and go and run and gun down a high street.
I think in the
unions
States
as well in the States. Yeah.
I think in the States, like you were saying then, Sean, obviously, in America, it's like, there's so many films shooting. So I think as soon as you independently pull out a camera, somebody's going to come straight away and be like, no, have we got a permit and stuff? And I think England is probably better in that sense with permits. Like the amount of stuff I used to shoot in England and nobody would like bother you, or the police wouldn't come or anything like that. There is parts in Cape Town where you can do that, certain stuff, but the other thing in Cape Town, like permits don't cost like a lot of money. So you can get away with a lot of stuff, and every permit's different. If it's a film shoot, if it's a photo shoot, or it's a very small crew, or you can film on this road and you can get the permit, but you can't block it off and you can't stop pedestrians from moving and stuff like that. So
I've got a question here from Quicksilver Death, who's a big fan of the movie Street Trash. He wants to know what the Venom was actually made of.
The Viper.
Did you raid John Carpenter's fridge, or
It was it was just a mixture of there was a lot of, obviously there was a lot of different colors and stuff. So there was I think there was a lot of different paints and stuff that we used. So I think it was different, like for the all the colors that we did. And then in the bottles, I think it was you didn't really see what was in the bottle because we only had a few scenes with the bottle, but it was like a cherryade sort of thing. But apart from that, it was all the a mixture of blood, a mixture of paint, a mixture of fluid to make it thick.
Didn't special effects say that the slime or the whatever was the same slime or the same make of slime that they used in Alien?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't hear them.
I think, and that stuff is crazy expensive. I mean, the majority of Ryan's budget for Street Trash went into the practical effects and all that. Gallons and gallons. And,
do you know? It's my compliments to the prosthetic team there. I mean, they did an absolutely fantastic job with the special effects. But what I wanted to ask you actually, Ryan, was how much artistic freedom were you given on this? Were you pretty much given carte blanche, or
great question.
Did you have somebody over your shoulder, saying you can't do this, and we want to take this scene out? And
well, the writing the script, it was greenlit, so everything was fine, everything was good. I probably spent like the last month before shooting to know that this film was going to get made, and then I started working through the script again and changing stuff. But yeah, we got greenlit, so everything was fine. And then shooting every day, everything was fine. I think it was only when it came to post towards the middle or towards the end of the first few drafts. Well, after the first few drafts, it was towards, because obviously you've got to, you edit, and then you got to polish, and then everything, you still got to see it through, and and start adding things where it's still bare bones. But there was certain things that I argued with the producers and stuff, where I wanted certain things. I don't want to go too much into it, but there were certain things that they either wanted to see or wanted to see more of, or they didn't want this scene. And for me with this film, what was very important to me and what was very important to Sean and the people that were also involved in this film, but especially with writing and directing it, was compared to the first film, straight away, I wanted to make this a more of a narrative story than the first one, because the story was like super loose in the first one. So I wanted to make more of a narrative story. And then it was very important for me that we had, these characters that develop and change. And, it was very important to have that like character driven film. And, I remember there was a few arguments earlier on where they were trying to cut down the characters. And I'm like, you got to see these people. You got to see who they are. And, they're all there, and you don't want to show too little of anybody. It's like if we made Street Trash 2 now, all the characters everybody knows who everybody is. So now like the second film would be, let's have even more fun, So it's just, I just feel it's important for a filmmaker to, to have these characters and to have it more character driven, and, to go through all these emotions and arcs and, and have that narrative story. So I just, there was certain things that I tried to fight for. Some battles I won, some other battles I didn't. But at the same time,
you've got to know when to concede and when to dig your heels in, and that's a difficult thing sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan had a very difficult, it was a very difficult balancing act, because, you've maybe got, producers of the industry that want a horror movie. They just want to know, what is this setup? We don't really care too much about characters. Just give us explosions, bodies, gore, and with a very, very loose storyline. Whereas Ryan actually really loves what he does, and he has integrity as a filmmaker. And so he really wanted to actually have a story with a beginning, a middle, and end, and have some sort of subplot. So anything that doesn't make sense in our reimagining of Street Trash, certain story elements ended up on the cutting room floor after many fights and arguments.
One of your films that I've seen, Sean, is this one.
Yes, sir.
Broken Darkness.
Oh man!
Any excuse, obviously, to have an AK-47 around your body. But yeah, I mean, this kind of really reminded me of sort of Walking Dead vibes. Following 8 years after an alien invasion and stuff. But there was, I thought your performance was good, and there was a lot in the film that I liked. Do you want to? Yeah, just tell me something briefly about how it came about, just to plug something else of yours.
Yeah, what's really interesting about Last Broken Darkness was I'd shot a short film called Tears in the Rain, which was sort of playing homage to Blade Runner that I'd shot maybe the short film we shot like 20 years ago. And one of the camera assistants on that was a guy called Chris DeSantos. And so when we shot that short film, Tears in the Rain, Chris actually came up to me and said, "Yo, Brew, you're actually quite a lacquer actor here. You don't suck." One day, Brew, one day I'm going to make a movie, Brew, and you're going to play the lead. And I was like, sure. And literally like 10, 15 years later, I'm sitting in Los Angeles and I get a phone call from Chris and he goes, "Cool, I've got the money. I'm making my movie. Can you be in South Africa in 3 weeks?" Yeah. And so that's how Last Broken. And so for me, that really is a testimony to sort of, serendipity, and why I also very much feel, work with young directors, work with young writers and directors and producers and actors, because you never ever know. And the older one gets, things do come full circle. And so, that's really how Last Broken Darkness or Broken Darkness came about. Once again, a writer-director, Chris DeSantos, also very, very ambitious.
Great.
Is he the guy that made is that Tears in the Rain? Is that the Blade Runner fan film?
Yeah. Well, he worked in that, but his buddy, Chris Harvey, he did the short film, which is really, really beautiful. But I mean, that little short film, Tears in the Rain, that spent about 8 years in post-production, because because of the the visual effects and whatever. It really took him like 8-9 years to get the money together to actually to complete it. So by the time his little short form came out, I actually had to have some work done to actually match what I looked like 10 years prior. No, I'm kidding.
Right, you've got another independent filmmaker, Oliver Hollingdale, who's also been on my channel before, in the chat right now. So, Ollie, I highly recommend you cast Sean in something as soon as possible. So, playing age 30 to 55. So,
and Ryan.
Oh yeah, Ryan acts as well. Sorry, he's got a baseball cap on, so I think of him as a director because he's got a baseball cap on.
But of course, Ryan, I have to sort of bring this back to Street Trash, because Ryan has an interesting character in Street Trash, don't you, Ryan?
I do.
Tell us more, Ryan.
So, when I was writing the script, Sokol, the imaginary friend, puppet, he actually wasn't in the first 2 or 3 drafts originally, and it was only later on when working with Gary Green, the guy that originally played Fry Barry, who plays 2-Bit in Street Trash. I just thought it would be a cool duo to have, to have these two characters together, because originally he was in the film, his character was a drug addict. He was talking to himself. And I just thought, well, what if he actually is speaking to somebody that's actually there, but nobody can actually see him. But he actually really is speaking to somebody. Yeah. And then it's only later on where Sean, takes the drugs and then sees him for the first time. But it was also there as a support boat. To work with Gary Green, because Gary's not a trained actor, so I always have to work with him super closely.
Wow,
to get exactly
really?
What I want.
Do you know what? I would not have guessed that from his performance in the film. I thought he was a veteran.
Yeah.
So,
Gary's a very interesting person. I have to jump through a lot of hoops to get exactly what I want. It takes a lot of time, but visually, Gary looks great.
Yeah, he does.
He looks like, and he's just got a great face, and he always gives 110% every single time. He'll never go and give up on a take. He will, he will keep doing it. And then when we shot Street Trash, I think I probably shit him up quite a lot, because it's we're shooting on film. You can't fuck up. You can't do this. And it's you got to learn those lines. It's that big moment where it's like the Braveheart moment where he's like talking to his men, and I'm like, you got to get this down. So I think for about literally like 2 months straight, he was just fucking learning it and learning it and learning it and learning it and learning it.
Right.
And then when we went to shoot, so I did lots of rehearsals with him to get it exactly how I wanted it. And then when it came to shoot, he did it first fucking take, and then we did a safety take for a second take, and that was it. And I was like, fucking well done. You nailed it.
Yeah, two good takes is how I want. 2 clean, good takes. And I only go for a third one if I feel I want to try something different, maybe. And then if not, I've got 2 clean takes. Time to move on. I think Sean and Gary were competing for who has the greasiest hair in this movie. I'll analyze it in more detail and let you know the results. So we're at an hour 15, so I'm conscious of the time. So I'll begin to wrap up. But
I'm gonna make dinner just now.
It's been great having you both on. I really appreciate Sean you coming on as well as an extra guest. And like I said, the offer is there now with the channel. You're both welcome to come back anytime. Sean, if you want to come back for a longer chat about your acting career, please do so. I'll slot you in another time this year because I'm sure you've got a lot more interesting stories to tell.
It's got lots of stories.
You know, these are all things that it doesn't matter how many credits people have, or I think it's more about the experiences, the life experiences that you've been through. Ryan and I had kind of a bonding moment about that near the beginning of the stream. But rewind and watch later. But I think those experiences are what really test you, and if you come out the other side of them and you're intact, it's those pearls of wisdom that you can give to other people at the beginning of their journey that are often the most useful. We definitely got 2 or 3 of those here this evening. Inside Man, did you want to chip in for anything else before we?
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, I could not have been more pleased watching this movie. It was exactly what I was hoping it was.
He bought the physical copy as well. He bought the physical media. You got the Blu-ray.
You see, the thing is, I mean, look, long live physical media. I think it's something that's so important because we value it so much when we have it in our hands, when we have it in our collection. But this is, I hope you don't mind me saying this, Ryan, but this is a throwback, but it's a throwback in the most positive way that I could possibly say. It's so reminiscent of the movies that I've grown up with, that I love, that mean something, that are so special to me. And
that's what it was for me. It was all those 80s movies, 70s movies, mainly 80s movies, but it's all those movies I grew up on, and it was it was definitely. I mean, you obviously know there's a lot of references and little Easter eggs, throughout the film. Some people will get them, some people won't. But like you said, like Warriors or Carpenter or whatever, there's so many things in there, and that's that I wanted to see a film that I would. It was the same thing with Fry Barry. I wanted to see a film that I used to watch. Yeah, like when I was. It was just like remaking a movie, those 80s movies that I loved when I was a kid. And I think it, like you said, I think it came across even more so because we shot on film. But yeah, I really appreciate those kind words. Me and my cast and my crew, we all worked very, very hard on it. But we also had the best fucking time. We had a lot of fun.
You can tell it shows in the film. Yeah. Sean, I've got a final question for you, which I always like to ask actors. Do you have, every actor wants to play Hamlet one day kind of thing. Do you have a particular role that you've always wanted to play that you haven't done yet, that is on your kind of bucket list of roles? It might be captain of a starship in a Star Trek series, although with the way that Star Trek's gone lately, maybe not. But something like that,
Sean wants to play John Connor.
I actually really want to do a sort of has-been rock star movie. Sort of like, you know, I'm a major fan of Depeche Mode and Tears for Fears, and, you know, 80s music, and I've actually sort of secretly in the background sort of been working on a movie about Depeche Mode, about, you know, So
are Depeche Mode aware of this secret movie?
Not yet. Not yet.
You know, they're big fans of the channel, you know, so that information.
Oh, really?
I don't know. You never know.
I actually watched them at the Hollywood Bowl 2-3 years ago, which was incredible. Fantastic. So yeah, so I'd love to play because I also enjoy singing as well. So I'd love to maybe play a rock star sort of.
What about you, Ryan? Because you're also an actor as well. You got a role like that you always wanted to play. So
I love characters. I mean, fucking every actor does, really. I've never seen myself as a lead actor. I just want to play that cool character that comes into it, and then maybe comes back later on or something like that. Give me one of your
favorite examples of that type of character in a movie.
The character that never made the cut to Street Trash.
Maybe like Brad Pitt in 12 Monkeys or something like that. Just something with a lot of depth and
fantastic,
something like that.
All right, well, we'll wrap it up there, guys. Do check out Street Trash. There's absolutely loads of links. I think Ryan sent me more links than any other guest. They're all below in the blurb. I've also got Sean's IMDb page there. You can check out his show reel. I know a lot of independent filmmakers tune into these streams, you know, whether they're live or later. I've got one watching now. Do check out Sean's show reel. His range is really quite phenomenal. If you're ever doing any stuff in South Africa, cast the man, or, you know, he will fly economy to do projects in the UK. So
there we go.
Yeah, I'm his agent part-time. I forgot to mention that. Anyway, joking aside, guys, it's been great having you both on, and we're very happy to support you, and you're also supporting us by being here.
Thanks so much.
So great. Sure. So to let people know what's coming up next, we are on tomorrow night at 10 o'clock with our weekly show, the Nielsen ratings. Took me ages to come up with that title, you know. And on that show, we'll be reviewing all the latest releases on Netflix and Amazon, telling you the shows.
I won't be.
No, you'll be doing some random Italian 1970s movie. Exactly. So we'll recommend old and new stuff that we think you should be watching. So our channel is all about positive recommendations. So the Nielsen ratings, we recommend you stuff to watch. Then on Sunday, assuming that I'm not too hungover from my rave, myself and the Inside Man will be doing a deep dive. See what I did there? On Crimson Tide and The Hunt for Red October. We'll be talking about both movies. Of course, as everyone knows, I am the biggest Gene Hackman fan on the planet. And I've also got some news on that front. I made the decision today that I am going to be writing a very extensive biography on the work of Gene Hackman. So that is a book project I'll be starting this year, and it's very much going to be all about the work, and that's what it's called. It's called Gene Hackman, All About the Work.
Wow.
So I'm going to talk about each of his films, his performances. He's the reason I got into the industry. So I wrote him a letter when he retired, expressing my gratitude for all the films he'd done and saying it's my deepest regret that we would never get to work together. And I sent one to his wife's furniture store. I got the address for it as well, just to make sure he got it in case the agent didn't pass it on. So I like to think that he did get that letter and it meant something, because I tried to make it not too fan gushy, but just from the right kind of place. So I'll be working on that book as well, and of course we'll be talking about that as I develop it. Thank you very much, Rachel. Very talented artist, Rachel. We've got all the arty people in tonight. So thanks very much to my guests for coming on. Thanks to the Inside Man for co-hosting with me, just in case my internet cut off. We'll be back tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Until then, remember what I always say, don't forget to call the people that you care about, that you love them, check on them, make sure they're okay, because we live in very strange and troubled times. All right, we'll see you all again soon.
Cheers.
Interviews with